Now we come to a session that really kept us smiling, surviving, and rolling during this time of pandemic, which is digital commerce, or I should say e-commerce. Businesses adopting to an end-to-end connectivity mindset with customer value proposition connectivity will sustain and thrive towards a new reality. For this panel, I would like to thank Edian Technologies for sponsoring it, and I would also like to thank Mutual Trust Bank, IPDC, Ispahani, and Zahedee Foundation for taking this summit forward. Thank you.
Salam and good evening to you all from Valor of Bangladesh. I am Syed Mamnun Kadir, Managing Director and CEO of Southtech Group, and today representing Valor of Bangladesh, the first knowledge-sharing platform in Bangladesh. I have some excellent minds coming together to discuss digital commerce and its prospects in Bangladesh. We all know that during this pandemic period, in many ways, the existence of digital commerce and online payment systems have eased the life of many living in large cities. So what are its future prospects? How do we make this business segment flourish in Bangladesh? As I said, we have some excellent panelists today amongst us. They are brilliant in their own ways. So let me introduce them. We have Ms. Maliha Quadir, founder and managing director of Shohoz. Ms. Shomi Kaiser, president of E-Commerce Association of Bangladesh. Mr. Syed M Kamal, country manager, MasterCard Bangladesh, and Mr. Raihan Shamsi, chairman and CEO, DevoTech Bangladesh. Today, we wish to talk about legal and operational issues surrounding the digital commerce ecosystem. What we have to look out for are the possible gaps that need to be addressed. So without further ado, let me begin this session with Ms. Shomi Kaiser.
Thank you very much, Mamnun Kadir. Thank you for a wonderful, among panelists inviting me, and great to see all our fellow colleagues who are working in the digital sector and in this sector. Yes, it's always a great pleasure talking about e-commerce, and it's always my privilege to talk about E-Commerce Association of Bangladesh. In fact, E-Commerce Association has played a significant and key role during this pandemic time. And before pandemic, we had almost 800 members, but now we have almost 1,500 members. And
wow.
It's COVID, right after COVID. We are still in COVID, but after August, September, now our members are 1,500 members, which includes the ride-sharing companies, payment gateways, delivery companies, people who are working with marketplace, all together. And interestingly, during COVID, before COVID, we've seen there was one data which one of our members, SSL Commerce, shared with us, that last January, that means 2020 January, the sector's growth was around between 15%, between 12% to 15%. But during COVID and post-COVID, we've seen this sector has grown almost 60 to 70%. Wow. And we are about to conduct study with the ICT Ministry and the Commerce Ministry. So if I give you a number, during this pandemic, around our 1,500 members, they're contributing around 12,000 crore taka during this time. And during the COVID-19, we've seen 3,000 crore taka digitally transacted. So the financial transaction was overall, altogether 12,000 crore taka at this moment. Without any unstructured survey, I'm telling you, it is from the questionnaires we have sent to our delivery companies, our members. From the question and answer, this is an approximate figure I'm telling you. And per day, almost now our delivery is 160 per day deliveries. So we have one legend delivery companies with us today, Maliha Quadir. So, this is one growing market. Rapidly, it has grown. And very interestingly, that our entrepreneurs are also very adaptive. And during this time, what we have seen that our policymakers have actually tried to come out of their regular shell and tried to actually cope up with the private sectors. So that was a positive side of it. Still, we have long way to go. We do have digital commerce policy, but we are actually at this moment we are working with Commerce Ministry on SOP. We are designing an SOP where Shohoz and all other delivery companies, all our companies have given their input, but it's a continuous process. We are just submitting our SOP for all our companies. Because during this COVID-19, we have also seen a lot of complaints about some significant companies from the consumers. And since the e-commerce sector has come into the spotlight, and the positive side is, if I just tell you that yesterday in FBCCI, if we see our Puran Dhaka, they have already 350 Mudi Dokan. These Mudi Dokan are wanting to come into digital commerce. Though that is one great thing. Yesterday we had this meeting with our FBCCI team, with the Old Town team. So I proudly can say that we have a good number of members. We have good members who are continuously suggesting us what should be the policy, what should be the SOP, how we should go further.
That's brilliant. That's very encouraging.
I would like to end here. Maybe I will come back later again.
No, well, that was brilliant. That's a great introduction to this subject. I really like the figures. It seems like we are really on the growth path here. I can actually take the next question to Ms. Maliha Quadir. You have made a name for yourself. In the ticketing and delivery business in Bangladesh. However, last time I spoke to you, you mentioned about an initial decline in business, like most other businesses in the country, due to this pandemic. How is business now, and how do you see your business pan out in the next 2 to 3 years?
Thank you so much. So to what Shomi Appa was saying is largely representative of e-commerce, which is basically buying anything online, even if it's F-commerce, all of that together. And that has a direct impact on the delivery business. We are in food delivery, which is a different segment. Traveling industry had recovered, but now again we are facing corona. We are in ride sharing and bus ticketing. Both of these were badly impacted. We had recovered. Now again, corona situation where government had to limit movement. So now again, it's going to be in some difficulty. In food delivery, there has been growth like worldwide. Bangladesh has also grown. I would say that the growth worldwide has been much more than the growth that the industry in Bangladesh has had. In the Bangladesh industry has grown, but not like what it had, the explosion that we heard of in food delivery in other markets. That hasn't really happened here. And with regards to local startups, we face a particular challenge in food delivery because we have international companies dumping billions of dollars and a lot of money. So, which is why you see that the foreign players are basically winning in the sector, taking up more and more share in the sector, and local players are having a difficulty. Particularly in corona times, fundraising is very challenging. VC will not invest in a new country without physically visiting it. That's just a golden rule. VCs have started investing digitally as well. We see Bangladeshi companies raising 1 million, 500,000, 2 million, 3 million. But for big ticket size investments, which is what us food delivery companies are up for, it is challenging because the VC needs to come and visit and see the country physically first. Even if they have come before, like we are being supported by our existing investors very well. But to get new investment, corona becomes difficult. A new investor, corona becomes difficulty because they would like to visit a country at least, if not the company. So that's been challenging for us, but since we have got good support with our existing investors and we have some large investors, we are doing fine. But in general, the local startup scene in Bangladesh faces tremendous competition from foreign players. Of course, as a country, we want to welcome foreign players, but as there's basically no kind of protection whatsoever for infant industry or local startups, it's very challenging for all the startups to grow as much as the foreign players because of that. So in general, I would say that travel will remain to be a challenge during corona times because it's totally related to how the pandemic is going. In food delivery, yes, there is good opportunity. But at Shohoz, we have added other services. Our goal was always to be a super app, which is why we started with bus, added ride sharing, food delivery. We have truck booking, which is doing very well. Plus, we have launched Shohoz Learn, where it's a collaboration with the world famous company Scholastic. And we are basically selling subscriptions to their ebooks. So education during corona times, people are coming digitally. We see opportunity there. We have some plans in fintech. As things started materializing, we will be announcing it, and I'll be more comfortable talking about it at that point. But overall, I think the industry Shohoz Truck is doing phenomenally well. We are growing very well. There is a huge scope of streamlining the entire logistics supply chain. Through what we are doing, digitizing the demand and supply matching. There's so much inefficiency in that industry. So yes, logistics had a good future. Startups in Bangladesh, if the fundraising situation improves, or if we get some kind of protection for being infant industries, which is what pharmaceuticals and others got, I think it has a very good future.
I really, very interesting points that you raised. One is basically competition, for which I've actually got a question later on. But I also want to explore that issue about your truck business. I mean, I thought that segment of the business is so important because it actually brings many goods from the interiors of Bangladesh to the large cities. So that has been, to me, I mean, that's a very important part of the ecosystem, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, trucking, logistics is the backbone of the country. If you think about it, finance, logistics, these are the things that keeps things moving, and the economy, the wheel of the economy moves faster because of them. So what we have is a marketplace where we are focused on corporates because those are the more lucrative segments and the bigger market. And we work with a lot of 20, 30 well-known corporates, local corporates, and Unilevers of the world as well work with us, where we basically fulfill their truck. And in doing that, we are working with all the vendors and all, trying to digitize them. It is very difficult. It is a lot offline, partial online process going on now. And we are gradually bringing them more and more online to actually get to the benefits of that matching efficiency. It's a scale business. The matching efficiency improves as more you scale, the more kind of profitable the business becomes. That's the way.
Okay, that's great. Let me
If I may
now.
just, Maliha, if I may add with Maliha here in terms of logistics and delivery. What COVID has done, before COVID, our total logistic ecosystem was not in line. Even the backward linkage and forward linkage. COVID has, in a way, helped us to bring the backward linkage and forward linkage together. Yes, we still have a lot of challenges in terms of logistics and delivery, but still we would say that COVID has helped us to identify the problems in logistics and delivery, and we could actually cover a lot of backlogs regarding logistics and delivery. The entire ecosystem has come into a right path. Still, even though we have a long way to go, but that's a good news.
Right. I mean, I think the pandemic has worked out positively for some businesses, hasn't it? So, I mean, that's why I was going to ask this question to Kamal Bhai, that, your statistics should also confirm that, the business has really boomed as far as MasterCard is concerned.
So I will talk about more of a digital payment concern, not only MasterCard. Overall, as an ecosystem player, I believe this sector has experienced like huge growth in the last 12 months or so. If I give statistics about the digital commerce, I believe Shomi Appa will also echo with me, and definitely Maliha Appa as well. Especially on the digital commerce space, we know before a pandemic, the digital payments were contributing only 15% of the overall digital commerce transaction. But during the pandemic, we have seen that 15% has become 35%. That means it has doubled up. If we see like few sectors within the digital commerce, it was a journey actually. If you see last 12 years, we have experienced so many things, and everything was new to us. So at the beginning, we have seen when the lockdown or the general holiday came up, like people were people were staying at home. That time we have seen online groceries were working very, very good. We have seen during that time wallet loadings were very, very good. Afterward, when it was getting a little bit opened up, we were seeing like food delivery was doing extremely, extremely good. At the beginning of pandemic, we were seeing this purchase at the electronic equipments were high, especially washing machine, and afterwards television and so on were extremely, extremely high. Then when the lifestyle has become like people have come back for shopping and other stuff, and things are getting opened up from May, June, that period, we were seeing again people were going to the supermarket for buying stuff, but definitely making the social distancing part intact. And then we have seen that during the time of Bakrid, we were seeing there was a digital Gorur Haat organized by ECAB, and other large stakeholders were also doing such programs. So there was a journey. And once everything was getting more flexible, or people were coming out, we were seeing the purchase of air tickets, railway tickets, bus tickets were extremely gone up. And also the accommodation parts, hotels, resorts, and other places. So afterwards, we have seen the lifestyle sales were actually going up. So altogether, it was a journey, definitely. And the good part of this, the journey was, I'm talking about the digital payment journey here. The people were more adaptable to contactless payments, and people were doing more digital transaction. And it is also true, once everything was opened up, then people again went back to the wet market, people again went back to the roadside markets and so on. So despite of that, I believe the adaptability wise, we have experienced that a huge number of people were actually shifted from manual transaction or the cash transaction to a digital transaction mode. So what we feel that at this point in time, and it was an urge from the business community as well as from the industry itself, that if the government may think about an incentive for the digital payments, so that this set of people who have already moved to this digital payment arena, they will stay back. So this is something I want to highlight here. Maybe afterwards, when my term will come, I will talk a little bit about some other areas.
I want to actually tag on to that answer that you made. You see, you mentioned that things have gone up. That's great. However, what we note is that most of these deliveries are cash on delivery. So it is actually not. It's not really touching the digital system, digital payment system. So what is your take on that? I mean, how do you feel about that? I mean, you see this way, even the VAT is actually being avoided, and things like if things actually go that way, it's possible that the government is going to lose out on VAT. What's your take on that?
See, you're right. 65% of the transaction are still cash on delivery, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
The entire portion of the Facebook commerce is actually cash on delivery. It is also true. But we have also introduced a solution in last June where we were actually moving this cash on delivery to a digital mode of delivery. So when the like say for example, I as a person chosen a product by cash on delivery, when my delivery person comes to my place and giving the delivery of the product, the delivery person will offer me a link that the delivery person will tell me that if you want to pay digitally, you can pay it now as well. So once I will agree with that, then the digital person, the delivery person will send a link to my mobile. The link will come from the main company or the website who is actually giving from where I have bought this product. Then through that link, I can convert my cash on delivery to digital on delivery. This is something we have launched in June, which is doing extremely well, and some other logistic companies were also working into that line. And I believe if that is properly used, then definitely some more of this cash on delivery part will move to a digital payments on delivery. This is one part. I'm talking about these are the structured websites what I have just talked about. But there is a policy going on. I know Shomi and the team are also working on that by making the Facebook commerce entities to proper entities so that they can also do the entire piece of the transaction from the order taking up to the delivery. Entire thing is in digital. If that will come, a large chunk of this Facebook commerce transaction will also move to formal digital payments, what we believe.
Right. Do you mean the devices, the POS devices, basically that these are mobile POS devices or not?
No, it is not required. This link is not required any POS device. The POS device is an expensive model. So this is a simple link. The link will be sent from the, say for example, Shohoz.com can send the link directly to the consumer, and consumer just click into that link and pay as usual through his or her cards or so on. There is no need. It's more of it's a better version of a soft POS even. There's no need of a hardware here. So we launched it in June. It's working fine. So I think more of such innovation will help to move the cash on delivery to more to a digital on delivery.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you for explaining that. I have a question for Raihan Bhai. Sheba is one of the leading e-commerce business in Bangladesh in the service space and the MSME segment. As chairman, how do you see this sector doing and the challenges that need to be addressed?
Welcome. Thank you for. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Thank you, MasterCard, and thank you, Valor Bangladesh, for this session. COVID has had a big toll on all of the business. And as you have mentioned, the Sheba or the service-oriented ones, we have other e-commerce, some other e-commerce players here. But Sheba is a more service-driven, where we connect the service provider to the customers. So we have had our fair share of challenge this COVID time, but thanks to the resilience of the young team, I would like to underline one thing here is that compared to many other businesses, the startup ecosystem, the e-commerce, the new digital industry, predominantly run by predominantly some young, resilient youth. So their ability to cope up with challenge and their ability to turn around, the resilience is much higher compared to many other industries. This is my experience. So they have turned around and the business is growing. Coming back to the point you mentioned, when as service platform, Shiva has two main things. One is to offer customers. We have around 500,000 customers, consumers who order services online. And other side is we have tens of thousands of service providers, who are mainly the, you can say, micro entrepreneurs. Some we call service providers, some are boutique shops or entities who have a number of resources and who deliver these services to the consumer. So with original initial objective, we were to serve the ultimate consumer. Later on, we realized that the lifeline is the service providers. And when we started realizing it, we already had 50,000 of such kind of service providers as micro entrepreneurs. And we've shed some light on this segment, and we were exploring what we can do to these micro entrepreneurs, enable them, to make them to have them included financially and also digitally, because both categories, and this is where I'm trying to come to, is that these small micro entrepreneurs, these are more than 30% of the lifeline of any developing economy, any developed economy. And in our country, I know that the government, the different stakeholders, authorities are trying to get them into the ecosystem, into the inclusion, but we still have a long way to go. If I give you an example, these SME/micro entrepreneurs, MSMEs, they don't have access to credit lines because their credit needs are rather small, and our traditional banking cannot afford to go to them to assess their credit worthiness and so forth. So what from Shiva we did, we created a merchant app. This is called a Site Pocket ERP, which helps, in addition to connecting or finding customers for them, also help them tracking their credit, help them tracking their resource management, 4, 5, 10 resources they have, assignment to the job. In a way, efficiency. So they can deliver more and grow more in their business. Similarly, promoting their business, the branding part, trying to get them access to funding. We have done a pilot with IPDC, whereby we were able to, at the initial stage, finance a couple of hundred of them with small size loans. So in this service sector, service is more labor intensive, and we see that together with the government and some other parts of the ecosystem, like the ECAB, like BASIS and so forth, we can probably bring a better solution, better inclusion of these micro entrepreneurs into our development journey. I would stop here. You have a question, I can come back later.
That's very encouraging. I mean, I think including the new entrepreneurs, the people, the large number of people that you're talking about, that is going to bring employment and so on and so forth. That's really going to help the economy. So I'm feeling very encouraged by your words. Sounds really good. I would now like to again turn to Ms. Shomi Kaiser. Shomi, if you can, can you please let us know if a young entrepreneur wishing to enter the digital commerce business, what are the steps he or she needs to make to actually start the business and make it legitimate? Because there are a few rules, that they have to follow. So as ECAB president, do you have any guidelines as to how they can actually start off with that business?
We do. Thank you. It's for young entrepreneurs or young business persons who are wanting to get into digital commerce or online business or e-commerce business, we do have a training module which we are combining with the Commerce Ministry at the moment. So we've designed it in two steps. One, absolutely freshers who are wanting to get into digital business. So as Maliha has just mentioned, if I talk about the startups, when they have to take a preparation, and the first thing in the digital commerce business, initially when somebody is starting, we just want to say that you need to come up with a good innovative idea. If you have a good idea, so you have a technology, you have a internet connectivity, what you need to do is to come up with a good idea. Second is you work on your product, because it is a competitive world. So you need to come up with a product and a lot of training on the R&D sector. And the second is a lot of our young entrepreneurs do not understand or do not have the proper training on marketing and sales, how to market it in online. So there are a lot of confusions also with the consumers happen because there is not a proper marketing. So what we are designing at the moment is the people who are wanting to come absolutely first time on the online business, giving them a marketing training and a sales training and the R&D training. And the third is actually what are the logistics and delivery companies they need to tag with. This is also very important. And the fourth is we want to encourage the digital payment system. So who are the aggregators they should be connecting with? We are discouraging the COD, as Kamal Bhai has mentioned, that there has been a cultural shift during the COVID-19. We have seen that how people are shifting from COD to digital payment system, and still there are a lot of opportunities in the digital payment systems. And we see the banking systems, they are also coming up with the innovative product, how they can help these entrepreneurs to transact digitally. So these are the components we give them the basic training. And then what we do is, as you have seen yesterday, that we are also talking to the bankers also. Banking system needs to come up with the innovative loaning system also, because a lot of our entrepreneurs are not actually getting the proper financial support from the traditional banks. And that is one area we are actually struggling. We are talking to different banks, how they should come up and help these startups and the digital commerce business entrepreneurs to help them financially. Yesterday, if you have seen, the ICT Ministry has launched a Startup Bangladesh Limited, where they have actually giving 100 crore to 50 startups, where Sheba XYZ is also one of the recipients. So these are the little out of the box the investors that we are looking from locally. I mean, local investors, meaning the government and the Startup Bangladesh is providing the fund. We are talking to the financiers, the local financiers, the venture capitals, to help the entrepreneurs. One data I want to also share, which I actually forgot, that during this pandemic, among these 1,500 members, almost 26% are women entrepreneurs. So we also want to help women entrepreneurs. There's a huge opportunity for women entrepreneurs to grow in this sector. So ideally, if I have told, basically I've tried to give you a basic understanding how we are helping the entrepreneurs, not in detail what are the training modules. We have an in-detail training module, 11 days course we are offering. It's absolutely free for the entrepreneurs. And what we are also doing that, that still our e-commerce industry is urban and semi-urban based. Rural e-commerce are not coming up during a lot of difficulties and challenges in the delivery and the logistics system. So luckily, we do see a lot of young entrepreneurs from Gaibandha, Rangpur, Joshore is connecting with us. They want to know. So this 11 days course, which we are doing jointly with Commerce Ministry, it has been success, and almost 1,200 young entrepreneurs, we have already given them the training.
Brilliant. I'm really encouraged by that, and I'm so glad to hear that it is free. I was going to ask you that question as to whether this is free or not, and so you have already answered that it's free. So I think that should encourage a lot of people to actually start really knocking on the door of
But
eCash.
but there is also one thing, one challenge also there, because once we have seen it is free, it's very difficult when during pandemic this was online classes. So Commerce Ministry is actually trying to come up with the impact survey. How many entrepreneurs truly been able to learn from this training? So what we have interestingly seen from the findings from the Commerce Ministry, the entrepreneurs who those who will pay and take the class for 11 days will be focusing more in the business than the entrepreneurs who are getting it free. So in our country, unfortunately, there is a mindset that if we get, let us see and learn. But we really, out of this training, we want to have good number of entrepreneurs. So maybe after a few months, we will have the modification from the findings which Commerce Ministry has shared with us. There will be a nominal charge because they just to keep them focused in the business.
Right. Okay. Just on to carry on that one. I mean, can I throw the next question to Ms. Maliha Quadir? Can you explain the entire e-commerce ecosystem that entrepreneurs should be aware of? How is Bangladesh doing in this respect of this ecosystem?
So generally, how the e-commerce ecosystem has developed in other countries is initially what you have is localization of well-established business models that have worked in other countries. And that is how exactly Southeast Asia, Africa, everywhere it's growing like that. Even Middle East. So you see an Uber in the US, Ubers pop up, rest of the world, Careem's popped up, Grab Gojek's popped up, Russia has its version, China has its Didi. So, so ride-hailing, food delivery, e-commerce, there are different. So the other thing I want to add is there are different sectors of e-commerce. So e-commerce, when we say strictly, it basically means selling goods, physical goods online. Usually that's how the industry participants talk about it. And then you have transportation companies, which is basically ride-hailing, bus tickets, things like that. You have logistics players, which is courier services. Courier services are usually short haul, the last mile delivery. What we do is Shohoz truck, which is the long haul basically. So we work with courier companies as clients. So that is another industry. And then you have the payment players. You do have EduTech, which is education startups. You have HealthTech, health-based startups. And then there's, of course, fintech. Within fintech, you have payment gateways, you have wallets, you have different kinds of creative lending institutions, you have wealth management institutions as well. So those are the kind of, in a nutshell, how the industry is divided. In Bangladesh, what has happened so far is that the foreign successful models has been copied and localized. Localization is very important in e-commerce because nothing can be copied in that sense. You have to come up with local features, local tweaks and all that is needed. So that is what has happened in the ecosystem. You see copies of Uber's ride-hailing, which was started by Pathao, then we got in as well, Shohoz. You see copies of food delivery, Foodpanda came in, Hungry Naki came in, then many of us also launched food delivery. So that is how the system has evolved. These are largely marketplaces, which basically means that we don't take inventory risk. We basically match buyers and sellers. Food, right? All of these are marketplaces. So in marketplace model, there's no inventory risk, but there's a high cost of user acquisition and whatnot, which requires funding and all. So in Bangladesh, the ecosystem, I think, has basically copies of many models that have worked abroad. Fintech, we haven't seen much creativity yet. Many things in the other markets have happened, which hasn't happened here yet. I think it's a course of development because it's a regulated industry. There's innovations coming slower. So that will happen in due course. EduTech, health tech, we are seeing startups come up. Ride sharing, food delivery, these things spring up earlier in the ecosystem because these are such everyday needs. So people know more about them and they want to do it. That happens. Ticket also, like everybody's ticket somehow gets digitized very early, has gotten digitized early in other markets. So these have happened. I think in future we'll see more things coming up in agri-tech, edutech, health tech, and fintech in the ecosystem. But a lot of this, basically all the marketplaces are pretty much here.
So that basically means that there is a huge opportunity for young people to get into this business, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Tremendous opportunity actually. So Kamal bhai, I would like to ask you. Sorry. Yes, please. Do you want to add
Mamnun bhai,
something?
now I just wanted to add with Maliha, this is actually the people who, it's a huge ample opportunities for Bangladesh, and people not only for the young entrepreneurs, people those who have been in the traditional business for last maybe 1 decade, 2 decades, they are actually transforming their business into digital commerce. So that is a huge industry we are going to see.
So I just wanted to add here to what Shomi is saying. There's another big industry out there, which is basically workflow digitization, process digitization, productivity tools. We are using one right now, StreamYard. So this is a big industry, which has also come up over the years, and nothing much has happened in Bangladesh in this yet. We're using Teams, Zoom, StreamYard, these things, but there's a lot more in this entire productivity and workflow digitization industry that is happening elsewhere, which can happen here as well. Marketing tools, all kinds of startups coming up.
Right. Kamal bhai, I would like to ask you, we have actually seen, I mean, the other day I was actually driving through a road and I saw lots of retail businesses basically shut down. Impact, of course, of the pandemic. What would be your advice to the retail industry that has been hard hit by this pandemic?
Definitely, yeah. But if you see what sort of retail were actually got closed during that period, maybe a lot of luxury shops were got they have discontinued their business. It is true. But at the same time, we have seen lot of new sectors grown up. If you talk about the health and hygiene sector, and so many other sectors actually grown up during this period of time. I think yes, this COVID or this pandemic has at the one side, while actually disrupting many sort of businesses, and it has opened up new avenues for new businesses as well. So altogether, I believe they have to be focused on what they're doing first of all, and they should not overtrade what is not their what I can say within their expertise level, which will not cover. They should not do that. I will give you some more connected information which may actually encourage all here. Our central bank, I mean the Bangladesh Bank, we work very closely with Bangladesh Bank, and what has happened, central bank has also given a simplified merchant acquiring policy very recently, where they have given a solution called personal retail account. Through this personal retail account, you may see at one point in time all the neighborhood shops, maybe a person who is actually selling product in a cart or a van, they can be also acquired for digital payments. That is the positive side. Number one. Number two, you have seen that this Bangladesh Bank has also introduced a solution called Bangla QR. It's a QR-based payment. Through QR-based payment, it's a low-cost acquiring, and through that, maybe more smaller merchants can be involved into that. You may see in coming days, like the cash on delivery can be converted to QR on delivery, which is in that case also only the delivery man has to carry a QR code, nothing else. So I think new avenues are coming up. While you will see a lot of shops or many cases you will see those shops were got closed as because they were not focused towards their business, or they could not manage their business model or so. But I think a lot of new avenues will open up, and if you see in coming days, if there are, maybe we are talking about ride sharing of usual ride sharing called Pathao, Shohoz, or so on. We know there were there are some ambulance service during this COVID, lot of ambulance service during this COVID, or so many other avenues opened up. So I think for the retailers should focus on what they're doing, and they should not overtrade, and within their capacity they should play. And more digitalization in the retail front also will help the government to get larger transparency, and maybe at one point in time government may also get larger tax net within the retail industry. That is what we can say here.
Can you also explain, how can a business basically open a merchant account? What is the process for younger people?
Oh, okay.
Might want to know, how do they actually get a merchant account?
See, earlier the process was very, very long, and this was all created through there was a circular from BFIU. According to the circular, the banks were building up the cases, and ultimately the acquiring document was a 16-page document, huge document and huge information. But with the introduction of this personal retail account concept, the acquiring policy will be much simpler. Number one. Secondly, Central Bank has also given a new entity called white label ATM and merchant acquiring entities, WLAMA. Through this WLAMA, more simplified acquiring policy we can see. It will, it is getting into a space like through a NAID, you don't have to have a proper, maybe a simple trade license or a license or a certificate from that particular association may also help to get a merchant acquired. Number one. Number two, the way the Bangla QR policy is also coming up, so merchant acquiring policy will be much more simplified, and you will see that in coming days for sure. So it is not like a large entity having a large, all the documentation is in place, will be a, yes, there is a requirement of documentation as because this money movement will be there. If you don't know the whom you are paying the money, at the same time, like at the long run, maybe there will be some other cases will come up. But it has become simplified, and in coming days, it will be more simpler.
Brilliant. Thank you for explaining that. Great. May I ask Raihan Bhai, as a former MNC CEO and currently as a startup investor, how do you see Bangladesh help our growing young entrepreneurs with support of an ecosystem that includes funding, coaching, infrastructure, etc.? What's your take on that?
Yeah. So having the startup ecosystem, the entrepreneurial ecosystem is a global phenomenon now. It used to be confined into some very developed countries, but thanks to the digital revolution, this is now, and thanks to the different new spirit of the very youth, it's been there for maybe half a decade. It's more prominent than before with the development of the digital ecosystem. So, like anywhere in the world, we are also seeing the same in Bangladesh. If I try to say in terms of example that a young university graduate earlier used to think how he or she can find out a good job in a good company. And these same youths are nowadays, they're thinking how they can find out, they can do something new. They can bring a simpler, smarter solution to the needs of the society, to the economy. So, and we can see many more now happening than before. And there is an ecosystem, I think Maliha Quadir mentioned, Shomi Kaiser also mentioned to some extent now, help, working out to help these new entrepreneurs. The ecosystem actually comprises a number of things. And we are new in this ecosystem, I would say. We are new in this trend, but then again, there are a lot of initiatives being taken. And I think one was mentioned, the Startup Bangladesh is funding a number of promising startup companies. There are initiatives from ICT Ministry, there are initiatives from e-commerce association, ECAP. We also saw even Central Bank announced a couple of billion taka for funding these startups. The fund is one part of the ecosystem, and I have been part of a how should I put a discussion organized by World Bank and IFC just before COVID, and when a number of startups were asked what are the things that they need for them to grow with their idea and concept and company. And to my very surprise, the highest number of asked was around coaching. So used to be, we all expected that it perhaps would be funding, which is of course very high need. Coaching. At the same time, we know that young people, young minds, they don't know. They have a good idea, they have a strong urge to do that. But then again, they, because of their age and the early stage of their life, they don't know many things, and for which we need to have an ecosystem, which includes policy, which includes training and development, how to do business compliantly. We don't want them to make mistakes and then be caught with authority and regret. So there are some other parts like Excel. Robi is doing another platform of promoting several companies and helping. Startup Bangladesh, I mentioned. There are a number of VC initiatives who not only fund, but also help them, handhold them to grow. Like similarly, from DevoTech, we are also nurturing a number of companies. Not only helping them with fund, but also bringing them investors, giving them workplace, giving some coaching, helping them with strategy, connecting them with different customer or stakeholder segments so that their voice is heard, so that they can pursue the success without unnecessary troubles. And another thing very important is the having a right policy support from the government. The right policy with right screening, because this is a big country and many people can have their aspiration. But if we have, let's say, a certain bucket of fund, and we can only help the best 100, and to find the best 100, and again, to create good reference and example, we need to find out, screen up the best 100. Then only they can create good examples, which will encourage the 500 behind this 100 to come that structured and the right approach to their candidate.
Right. I'm now going to ask a very important question. Shomi Apuke, actually, I'm going to ask this question, and this is a very important question actually for me also, because for the entire industry of e-commerce, which is that is there a risk of foreign operators coming into Bangladesh with huge investments that might threaten the local homegrown digital commerce business in Bangladesh? I mean, this is something that already Maliha has already alluded to earlier. If so, how can we actually avoid these kinds of unfair competition? I would say that this is unfair because, we may not necessarily have such huge funding, but nevertheless, we really have the local information and so on and so forth. How do we actually address this issue? Actually, this is so important for your entire membership of ECAB.
Absolutely. First of all, of course, that there was a law from last 2 years there, BIDA, because Bangladesh Investment Authority has made it 100% FDI. 100% investment or the foreign investment is definitely, we welcome it. And since Bangladesh did really have a good ICT ecosystem, this is why the e-commerce industry could emerge. But the challenge is what Maliha has just mentioned, our startups, our young companies, or our companies like Shohoz, or the companies like other companies, they are still struggling in many ways. So we do want to invite the foreign investors to come in. What we are discussing with BIDA at the moment, that to come up with a protection policy of these startups or the companies which are doing good at the moment. Maybe another 5 years, they will flourish more. So we need to have a protection policy at the moment, which we do not have. There are two areas actually at this moment I want to mention that E-Commerce Association is focusing. One is the protection policy, how we can really protect our local companies inviting the foreign investments, how we can do it. So we are having a long discussion with BIDA, one, which is connected with the cross-border policy as well. We do not have a proper cross-border policies yet. We do have some indication in the digital commerce policy, but we need to have a proper guideline of the on the cross-border policy, because this is where we are also lagging behind, and we are not having a proper competition with the world. So these are the areas we still have a lot of challenges. We are working with BIDA at the moment, and there will be a lot of continuous discussion. So unfortunately, for the COVID situation, BIDA was planning to hold a big discussion summit during sometimes in April, end of April, which they have postponed it. But two areas is very important: how to protect our local company, which is the protection strategy, and again, inviting the foreign investment. And the second, linked with this policy, is the cross-border policy. These are the two areas we do not have a proper guideline as yet.
Yeah,
we do have our partners and our member companies. Sorry.
They're contradictory, because on the one hand, you are actually asking 100% FDI coming head on with a lot of investment, and on the other hand, you're saying I need protection. What kind of protection can you get with that kind of a thing? I mean, if it was some sort of proposal to,
the
joint venture kind of
FDI, when the 100% FDI policy was given by the ICT Ministry and the Commerce Ministry, Kamal, we did have a lot of meetings with the Commerce Ministry that please do not have the 100% FDI at the moment. But Commerce Ministry said, okay, we will be inviting 100% FDI, protecting. How are we protecting? That if they have a warehouse here, they have to acquire the local companies. They will bring in the local companies and have the local warehouse policy. This is still we are still struggling. Honestly, Mamnun Bhai, we do know that our government is very supportive in terms of policy, but this is where we are still struggling.
I tell you, I think, you know, if we
were the first association when the 100% FDI policy was given by BIDA and the Commerce Ministry. E-commerce association was the first association with the stakeholders we had couple of the meetings. That is when actually government make a commitment that we will have the 100% investment, but we will have come up with a protection policy for these companies, how they can. So one suggestion was to have the local warehouse. They will have to have the warehouse here. For the local companies, so the local entrepreneurs can tap in. So, but this is a long continuous process. We still could not have the final outcome of the protection strategy yet.
I just hope that this strategy comes up fairly fast. Otherwise, most of our companies that have actually struggled so far might get gobbled up by the larger players.
Definitely, these are the challenges, and we do thank our government for a lot of policy supports. But these are the areas where our local companies, we are taking our local companies to BIDA, to Commerce Ministry to speak. But hopefully by mid of this year, we can come up with a draft policy which we will be able to share with our stakeholders.
Great. I hope your success over there. We are actually running out of time now. I just have one observation, that a large chunk of our digital business is actually taken up by Facebook and Amazon and the likes. And frankly speaking, I think you know, they are not having to pay any VAT, unlike, say, for example, some of the others like Maliha Quadir probably is basically paying VAT. Shamsi Bhai might also be paying VAT. So how do we control these guys?
Well, this is again a long discussion with NBR. Every year we've been, Kamal Bhai is here, we've been talking to NBR. But finally this year, it seems since last 2-3 years, NBR been able to understand the importance. The challenge is, when we want to actually bring in the Facebook commerce entrepreneurs, those who are doing business, most of them do not have a proper trade license or TIN numbers. And what NBR is also doing, unfortunately, we've requested NBR to stop this practice, going with the list, going to the entrepreneurs and checking their account and charging them with the VAT. So we now this year we had meeting with NBR, and NBR been able to understand. And one thing they have mentioned and committed us that e-commerce industry, if e-commerce industry was including ITS, then the could have been rebated. But unfortunately, e-commerce industry is not enjoying the VAT support and the tax support from the government at the moment. And it is, Maliha is here, all our companies are suffering. So we have given them a long proposal to NBR. There are 3 or 4 areas NBR has committed us. Before this budget session, we hope that NBR will come up with their statement. And NBR, the good thing is NBR being able to understand. And another thing, to encourage the digital payment system, we have also mentioned NBR that you take VAT from the VAT, those who are actually paying digitally, to discourage the COD. We said that, okay, those who are paying through digital payment system, you reduce the VAT there. So that is where we are actually having the discussion at the moment, so that NBR can be transparent. They really know that those who are paying digitally, statement and everything. And if they give the VAT support, minimum VAT we mentioned, I'm not mentioning the number because this is secret, we are discussing with NBR. So that a lot of people will be encouraging the digital payment system. So that's what NBR has committed. And I also would like to thank Kamal Bhai. Kamal Bhai played a key role last 2-3 years. It was a strong struggle. It's still a struggle, but now I would also say that we can see the silver line.
With that, I would like to say thank you to all of you for your excellent and valuable comments. And I hope that it is going to be a direction setter for many of the new entrepreneurs who might be entering this particular space. And I really am very encouraged to hear you all. Although I personally, I'm not in the e-commerce business myself, but we actually build systems for e-commerce companies. But it's really nice to hear that there is a growth, really a potential huge growth in this segment. So with best wishes to all of you, good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you, Maliha. Thank you, Raihan Bhai. Thank you all.
That was so powerful. I'm sure viewers who have watched this session, they have known and they understand the value of digital commerce already and have taken notes of the important things that will be undertaken in the coming times. Thank you, Syed Mamnun Kadir, for moderating this session. And thank you once again, our panel sponsor of digital commerce, ADN Technologies.